Take one more day off and you're fired. Ethan Mercer said it loud enough for the whole bullpen to hear. Not yelling. That would have almost been better. No, Ethan did that polished executive thing where he smiled while saying something ugly. Coffee in one hand, Italian loafers probably worth my first car, leaning casually against my desk like he owned oxygen itself. And around us, 30 people suddenly became deeply interested in their monitors. I remember staring at the spreadsheet open on my screen while my wife's boarding pass sat folded in my jacket pocket. Honeymoon. 7 days in Italy. First real vacation I'd taken in 5 years. And somehow, Ethan had turned it into a disciplinary issue. You already got 6 business days, he said. The company survived your wedding, Tyler. Don't push your luck. A couple people chuckled nervously. That's the thing about corporate humiliation. It's rarely dramatic. Usually it's just one guy making sure everybody understands your place. I nodded once like, sure, whatever. But something in me shifted. Because Ethan didn't understand one very important thing. The company wasn't surviving despite me. It was surviving because of me. And 3 weeks later, they were losing almost €100,000 a day trying to figure that out. Funny how perspective works. I'd worked at Virion Logistics for 8 years. Mid-sized supply chain company. International freight coordination, warehouse automation, customs forecasting. Sexy stuff, if you enjoy spreadsheets and stress-induced eye-twitching. I was Director of Systems Integration by title. By reality? I was the human duct tape holding together 15 outdated platforms nobody fully understood anymore. Especially Ethan. Ethan Mercer came in 2 years earlier after some consulting firm crowned him a transformational operations leader, which I learned was executive language for confident guy who says synergy a lot. Tall, expensive haircut, gym at 5 a.m. energy. He had a habit of touching people's chairs while talking to them. Tiny thing. Territorial. Like a dog marking furniture. At first, I tried to give him grace. New executives always need time. Then the little things started. He'd interrupt me mid-presentation and repeat my point louder 15 minutes later. He once introduced me to investors as our back-end computer wizard, which was interesting considering I managed an entire European distribution architecture. Anytime a launch succeeded, Ethan took the room to steak dinners. Anytime something broke at 2 a.m., my phone rang. And I answered. Every time. Because that's who I was back then. The dependable guy. The quiet guy. The guy who smiled while getting stepped on because mortgages exist and healthcare isn't exactly optional. My wife, Nora, saw it way earlier than I did. You know he talks to you differently than everyone else, right? She asked one night. We were sitting on our apartment balcony eating takeout noodles while traffic hummed below us. He talks to everybody differently. No, she said. He talks down to you specifically. I shrugged. He needs somebody to look smarter than. She looked at me for a second. That bother you? I remember laughing softly. Nah. Guys like Ethan always think confidence is competence. Eventually reality invoices them. Nora smiled at that. Reality invoices them, she repeated. That's cold. Maybe. But patience and bitterness are cousins. Sit with one long enough and the other eventually shows up. The honeymoon issue started because of a rollout. 3 days before our flight, one of our warehouse routing systems started failing intermittently across the Rotterdam corridor. Orders duplicated. Customs tags mismatched. Delays stacked like dominoes. I stayed late 3 nights fixing emergency patches while Ethan paced around pretending proximity counted as leadership. At 11:40 p.m. Thursday, after 14 straight hours in the office, he stopped beside my desk. You're still leaving Monday? Yeah. He gave this little exhale through his nose. Must be nice. I almost laughed. Because Ethan took vacations constantly. Aspen. Ibiza. Napa. Guy had more resort photos than operational reports. But this was different. Mine inconvenienced him. Friday morning, I finished stabilizing the system enough for temporary continuity. Not perfect, but functional. I sent a 42-page transition document to leadership detailing every vulnerability, dependency chain, and emergency escalation path. Nobody read it. Especially Ethan. Monday came. Nora and I landed in Venice around noon local time. Tiny hotel near a canal. Warm air. Church bells somewhere in the distance. For the first time in years, my shoulders unclenched. Then my phone buzzed. Ethan Mercer. I stared at it while Nora unpacked near the window. You gonna answer? I already knew the tone before picking up. Tyler, where the hell is the customs sync override? It's in the transition packet. I don't have time for treasure hunts. Page 9, highlighted blue. Silence. Then, you should have simplified this. I closed my eyes. It's a live infrastructure system, Ethan. Not IKEA furniture. Nora bit back a laugh. Wrong move. Ethan heard it. Are you seriously joking right now while Europe fulfillment is bleeding? And there it was. Not concern. Not urgency. Ego. Because the problem wasn't the system. The problem was he couldn't control it without me. Over the next 4 days, he called 11 times. Every issue traced back to one thing, Ethan refusing to involve the technical staff I specifically recommended because he thought delegating downward made him look weak. Classic Ethan. By Thursday, delays had spread across 3 countries. Clients were furious. Warehouse penalties kicked in. Every day the routing issue continued cost the company just under €100,000 in contractual losses and operational backup fees. And still, Ethan kept treating it like a dominance contest. Then came the voicemail. That beautiful, career-ending voicemail. I was sitting outside a cafe in Florence when it came through. Tyler, enough with the disappearing act. If you're trying to leverage this situation for leverage or attention, it's not gonna work. Take 1 more day off and don't bother coming back. I replayed it twice. Not because I was angry. Because I was surprised someone that politically skilled could be that reckless. Nora looked at my face carefully. That bad? I handed her the phone. She listened quietly. Then she handed it back. Oh, she said. He's cooked. See, Ethan forgot something important. I wasn't some junior employee anymore. I had equity clauses. Protected leave agreements. Documented executive approvals. And most importantly, I had records. Not secret recordings. Nothing dramatic. Just emails. Directives. Meeting notes. Escalation refusals. Years of Ethan overriding technical recommendations to preserve appearances. I didn't collect them out of revenge. I collected them because men like Ethan survive by rewriting history. Quiet people learn to archive reality. The real collapse started Monday morning. I returned exactly on schedule. Not early. Not late. Right on time. The office atmosphere felt weird the second I walked in. Too quiet. Like everybody could smell smoke but didn't know where the fire was yet. Ethan called me into conference room B within 10 minutes. Glass walls. Cold coffee smell. His blazer draped over a chair like he planned to stay a while. He didn't offer me a seat. Interesting choice. You left this company exposed, he said immediately. I just looked at him. He kept going. Your documentation was incomplete. Your support was inconsistent. And frankly, your attitude during this crisis has been unacceptable. There's a moment in certain conversations where someone unknowingly steps onto very thin ice. You can hear it crack before they do. I sat down slowly anyway. Are you terminating me? I'm considering it. Based on what specifically? Negligence. I nodded once. Then I slid a folder across the table. Not dramatically. Just calmly. Inside were printed approval chains, system warnings, his written refusals to delay rollout deadlines, and the voicemail transcript. Ethan's expression changed in stages. Confidence. Confusion. Calculation. Then that tiny flicker people get when reality arrives faster than expected. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. I spoke before he could recover. You threatened termination during protected leave while ignoring documented infrastructure advisories you personally overrode. Silence. Outside the glass wall, people pretended not to watch. You also rejected senior engineer escalation requests 3 separate times because you wanted all communications routed through you first. His jaw tightened. That's out of context. No, I said calmly. That is the context. For the first time since I'd known him, Ethan stopped performing. No posture. No executive smile. Just a guy suddenly realizing the room had changed shape around him. You recording this conversation? Nope. That seemed to bother him more. Because recordings are easy. Patterns are harder. I stood up. I'm going to fix the Rotterdam sink issue now because clients matter more than this weird ego thing you've got going on. Tyler. But before I do, I said quietly, legal and the board compliance committee already received copies of everything in that folder. That landed hard. His face lost color so fast it almost looked painful. See, during our honeymoon, while Ethan was leaving threatening voicemails, another executive had called me privately. Marianne Holt. CFO. Smartest person in the building by miles. She'd asked a simple question. Tyler, why does every technical crisis somehow involve Ethan ignoring your team? Careful people wait for the right question before telling the truth. So I did. The investigation moved fast after that. Faster than I expected, honestly. Turns out losing nearly €500,000 in under a week gets attention from people who usually ignore operational staff. Auditors dug through project histories. Patterns emerged. Delayed maintenance approvals. Suppressed risk reports. Leadership bottlenecks. Ethan treated information like territory instead of infrastructure. And eventually infrastructure pushed back. 3 weeks later, he resigned. Officially, it was to pursue other opportunities. Corporate language is adorable sometimes. Nobody believed it. The strange part? I didn't feel triumphant. Not really. Mostly I felt tired. Like I'd spent years holding a heavy door shut and finally realized I could just let go. A month later, Marianne promoted me into interim operations leadership. First thing I did? Pulled the engineering teams into one room. No stage. No presentation deck. Just coffee and honesty. I know a lot of you got used to filtering yourselves around here, I told them. We're done with that. Nobody clapped. Real workplaces aren't movies. But shoulders relaxed. People spoke more openly. And for the first time in years, meetings stopped feeling like survival exercises. One evening, maybe 6 months later, Nora and I were back on the balcony with takeout containers between us. Same traffic below. Same city noise. Different version of me. You know what's funny? She said. What? You never actually got revenge. I thought about that. Then shrugged. I didn't need revenge. What did you need? I looked out across the skyline for a second. Witnesses. Because that's the part people misunderstand. Most quiet resentment isn't about punishment. It's about wanting reality acknowledged. Wanting the years of swallowed pride and fake smiles and careful restraint to mean something. Ethan thought power meant controlling the room. But real power? Real power is being so necessary that arrogance becomes expensive. And the last thing he ever said to me, right before clearing out his office, almost made me laugh. He stopped near my desk holding a cardboard box full of framed leadership awards and expensive pens. Then he looked at me and said, very quietly, "You could have warned me." I remember meeting his eyes. And after 8 years of silence, stress, midnight emergencies, and being treated like furniture with a laptop, I finally told the truth. I did. And that's the part people never understand. It was never about revenge. It was about reality finally catching up. Because silence isn't weakness, until it is all you have left. And if you made it this far, you already know what kind of story this really was. If you want more stories like this, where quiet people don't break, they build, subscribe. And tell me in the comments. When the line gets crossed, do you stay quiet like Tyler, or do you end it right there?